Hello, and welcome to 6 Degrees from Cannabis. I'm your host, Tori Rerick, PharmD and holistic healer. Each episode features a candid conversation about how connecting with the cannabis plant has enhanced an individual's wellness journey. Here to honor the plant, talk about healing, and have fun. Today's guest, DJ, describes marketing in the cannabis industry as finding the last infinity stone. He walks us through his personal shifts toward the plant, going from stern abstinence to neutrality and then advocacy. DJ shares that despite catching a case involving cannabis, it has opened doors of prosperity for him. He is passionate about cannabis education and encourages inclusivity in the community. Listen to this episode to hear how the plant helps him focus his ADHD so he can serve the people. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today I have on Devlon DJ Howard, who is a marketing strategist and project manager with nearly 10 years of experience working with Fortune 50 brands, including Walmart, Target, and UPS. He is a proud alumnus of the University of South Florida and current Tampa resident. Through a series of life events in 2016, he began learning more about hemp and medical marijuana treatment options. Since then, he has leveraged his knowledge, experience, and passion to help others interested in the benefits of plant medicine in a variety of ways. With his brand, Saved by the Treats, co-founded with his partner Amber, he provides CBD products, education, and community for consumers. As CEO of Midas & Co., he provides branding and marketing consulting and automation services to business owners in the space. DJ serves as a Minorities for Medical Marijuana State Director of Florida and is on the board for Suncoast NORML, advocating for patients, consumers, and small business owners in the cannabis space. Welcome, DJ.
Thank you, Tori. Thank you. Wow, that was an awesome intro.
Well, you wrote it. You did the thing. So congratulations.
Listen, I thank you. I appreciate it. It's crazy hearing it back sometimes. I was listening. I was like, wait, she's still talking about me. Okay.
I know, right? You're like, dang, I've done a lot. And you're still doing it. You're going hard.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you giving me some space to come on your show. It's truly an honor to be on 6 Degrees from Cannabis.
Thank you. And what I like to do with the guest is break the ice with an oracle card. So you do? Okay.
I've listened. I'm very excited. This is my favorite. I'm because you never know what you're gonna get.
You never know.
So it's like, this is so exciting. I've been most excited for this part right here.
And this is going to be a goodie. So the Follow Your Heart Oracle deck is a highly inspired deck. So it's 420 friendly. It was made with cannabis in mind. And the card that came out for you today, of course, is Prosperity, which the imagery is our sweet cannabis leaf. It's a cannabis fan leaf with a little heart on the bottom, basically our logo for 6 Degrees here. And that's connected with the word prosperity. So DJ, let me know how you tie your relationship with cannabis to prosperity.
Oh my gosh, that is such an awesome one. I was not expecting that one at all, but it makes so much sense because like the whole reason for me getting into the cannabis space was community, was the people around me, the people who look like me that I grew up with all over the country who cannabis can really, really help and help them lead a better life, a life that's full of more wellness. And for so long, we've been just, we've had so much trauma from cannabis. But truly, I think moving forward, if we can break that stigma and relearn some things and just start to view cannabis in a different light, I think as a community, we could experience prosperity. Like that's the whole point. Oh man, I love that card, Tori. That's so awesome.
Was perfect. And that's always how it works out. So I'm so glad you were able to break it down.
Because I was nervous. I was like, oh my God, you never know what card you're gonna get.
Yeah, that's my little wild card in there, but it always works out. Thank you so much. And so
yes, thank you.
Growing up, or what was your original perception of cannabis and has it shifted?
My relationship with cannabis has definitely shifted from my original perception. So originally, I grew up on, do not smoke, do not do drugs, the DARE program in school. I was a really good student. I played like multiple sports, and with playing sports, it was always just put upon me that smoking is bad for you. Cannabis is bad for you. It's gonna slow you down. It's gonna mess up your performance. So I would even get on like teammates who I knew were using cannabis and be like, "Come on, man, you're killing the team right now." And over time, it has absolutely shifted. I would say it's went through multiple phases for me as far as the shift goes, because it went from that to okay, it's okay. It's not that bad. It's not going to necessarily hurt you to, okay, wait, this can actually help you. It's not even that it's not damaging. It's actually helpful if you use it right. And if you understand and learn and educate yourself on the ways to use it and how it can help you, it can really be of great benefit. So I think over time, I've kind of went through the different phases of how my relationship with cannabis has grown over time.
That's an interesting aspect. And the reason I ask it is quite obviously to show anyone that's listening that you might start out with one mindset and be able to like 180 that or shift. But what's interesting that you mentioned is the phases, right? It's not just like, okay, one day I didn't think it was good and then now I love it. So
Right.
that's important to be like more accepting of those around you and like letting people do what they need to do. And then being curious about it and then going ahead and like making your own opinions about it. So was that experiential, or you saw people around you doing all right, even though they
Yeah.
utilize cannabis?
Yeah, it was definitely a combination of those things. So with the different phases, I think what originally happened is I saw more of my friends using it. And I kind of got out of the thinking of, this is like this terrible thing. And then when I went to college, that first summer, I actually stayed on campus during the summer after my freshman year. And that's when I like started smoking more socially, I guess I would call it, with friends. And I realized, this is kind of fun. And in college, that was also like my first like proper introduction to drinking alcohol. And I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan. I did it because, that was like the thing to do. You're in college, it was cool. But I really always preferred using cannabis. And for a long time, I didn't really understand why. But the people who I was smoking around, they didn't understand why either. So it wasn't like I was around people who really had like some serious knowledge about the plant. What happened after that was, as time went by, I think it became like 2000, end of 2016, early 2017. My girlfriend Amber got diagnosed with like stage 4 endometriosis. She was super, super sick. And, we tried everything in the world to try to help her, and nothing was helping with the pain until one day. And I had been using cannabis since college now, because like I said, for me, it became like, this is nice. This is a nice wind down and relaxation. But also in college, I realized that it was helping my ADHD, which I had been diagnosed with, but I never went back to take the medication for, because I've never really liked taking pills. I don't really, still to this day, I'll try to take a liquid or a chewable if I have to, but I don't really like taking pills. But I realized that cannabis was helping me with my ADHD. So I was smoking when my girlfriend got sick. So I was like, we've tried everything else in the world. Like, give this a whirl. Like, let's see what happens. And it helped. And, at that point, me seeing how it helped people around me in a way that it did not help me made me more so understand how it did help me, but also how it could help others. And that's when like the education really started, where I stopped just like focusing on like, oh, okay, we're going to smoke some weed, to like, okay, there's multiple ways to ingest this. There's multiple ways that you can apply this. There's CBD, and then there goes, more of that shift in that phase of learning. It went from just, conscious, oh, okay, this is weed, to, okay, there's a deeper knowledge here. And I would say that's the evolution is still happening. I think we're all constantly learning and learning more and more about the plant. But I think as, I realized how it helped her, how it could help my family members, especially some of my older family members, even though they were not too keen on it at all. That was like trying to break that stigma. That was like a totally different thing with them. But seeing how it helped people and then start being in different spaces where people talked about it more, the evolution and the phasing of just learning more about it and how my relationship with it changed was kind of like a natural thing.
That's incredible. And such a testimony, obviously, for how versatile the plant is. I mean, you and Amber were dealing with quite different things, and yet still found solace and like solution in the plant. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it was crazy because, it was helping me with the ADHD, like the focus thing. That was like a serious thing. It had been helping me for years. But then with her being sick, it was very stressful. At the same time, my mom was also, she had to have like the surgery. It was part of the reason why I moved from DC. At the time I was living in DC. I moved from DC back to Tampa, to the Tampa area. And a lot of that was because, my mom was sick, but then, when I got here, she got sick. So it was like a very stressful time for me. So obviously the stress and anxiety, cannabis helped with that as well. And then, which I didn't even mention, I had a whole case. Oh my gosh, Tori, like I've never been in trouble before, right? I never had any like issues with the law, or I didn't really get in trouble. But right before I left DC, I was in Southern Virginia, a very rural part of Virginia, and got popped for like less than half a joint.
Dang.
Yeah. So it was like a whirlwind of things happening at that, like late 2016, early 2017. What a time to be alive. It was crazy. It was tough because it was like, damn, I'm in trouble because of this. But also it's helping people. Like, this is very conflicting.
Yeah, I was gonna say what are your feelings? And I mean, of course, it wouldn't be like, it's not the plant. But
No, it's not the plant. No, it's not the plant. That's kind of what like drove me to start getting more involved with advocacy and wanting to do more as far as education, because like it was hard for me to go tell my family that this thing could help you when I was on probation for the plant. Like it was a very it's a trying conversation to have, right? But obviously I got through that over time. And then, family started to really see the benefits. I started providing it to them in different ways. So we started making edibles. Amber really likes to bake. So she started making, I figured out how to make butter. We started making edibles. That became her main treatment method. And she's a really good baker. So over time, like, people start asking like, hey, can we have some? And it kind of spirals from there. And now, we have Saved by the Treats now, which has evolved into, we have different products and other things too. But it was definitely part of why I took such a serious direction in the advocacy space, because it really was getting not just me, but way more people in trouble. Like, I have plenty of family members, cousins, friends from high school who have something on their record related to cannabis. And, at the end of the day, you pull the prosperity card to start the call. Like, it could really be something that can help people be prosperous. But unless we, kind of change laws and change how people look at it, it's going to be really difficult for us to be able to do that.
Most def. Thank you. How does the plant serve you? You mentioned ADHD. In what other ways does it serve you?
ADHD, stress and anxiety, like the focus is like a huge thing now. It serves me in the sense of, so like at the beginning of the pandemic, like right before the pandemic started, I got laid off of my job, and I tried to get into like, I had long decided I was leaving the job anyway. So they kind of did me a favor.
Sure.
But I was trying to get into the cannabis space in marketing. Like, I wanted to work for a dispensary. I wanted to do these things. But it didn't happen. Like, for whatever reason, I never could get like a call back. Cannabis still gave me the opportunity to work in that space, doing something that I love, where I can actually educate people on something that I'm truly passionate about. Like, at the end of the day, working with, Walmart and Target and UPS is cool, but they don't really need me. Like, I'm not really moving the needle for them in that way. You know what I'm saying? To make more people like come into Walmart. Like they'll be good. In cannabis, I thought way more. It serves me in the ability that I can still make a living for myself and not necessarily have to go back to a job outside of something that I'm passionate about. Like I love doing marketing, but marketing in cannabis, I feel like it's like finding the last infinity stone or something. Like
Yeah.
it unlocks like a new level. So it serves me in that capacity for sure. And then it just enables me to do so many different things and have so many different conversations and meet different people and do things like this where I can hop on a podcast and meet you via online because we're both in the cannabis space and be able to do awesome stuff like this, which for me, that like I love that. Like I love that so much. It helps me wake up in the morning because I it gives me purpose,
Definitely.
So that is how the plant serves me.
I relate to
Multiple
that
ways,
so
but
much.
definitely with purpose.
That's like so rich. Everything you mentioned is just like the fullness and abundance of life. And that's, I feel like, where the plant leads us. It just opens doors.
Right.
It sounds like it doesn't open doors. I mean, because of the case that you caught, but like that.
Listen,
But that at the same time, open the door, I'm sure.
that's another door. So even getting into that is a whole nother door that has opened because, it has allowed me to connect with people all across Florida now, being in this position with Minorities for Medical Marijuana and the work that we're able to do. So even that, it seems like it was a door closed. It seemed like it was a bad situation. Even like the whole getting laid off thing, like when it first happened, I was like, oh my God, like I've never been laid off of a job. I've never been broken up with. Like, what are we talking about? How does this happen? Like, but at the end of the day, it's actually been incredibly beneficial. Like, it's been, I don't know. So I mentioned the Infinity Stones and I don't know how into like the Marvel world you are, but I was just watching this show called Loki.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
Yes. So they talk about like timelines and different like variations of the timeline, branches of the timeline. So Amber told me something the other night. She said, me getting laid off, and I would add into that, me getting that case, they created a different branch in my timeline. It created a shift in my life. So as negative as, the world might make it seem, or even as I may have thought it was at the initial time, it's actually proven to be incredibly beneficial for my life.
Whoa. Thank you, Cannabis.
Thank you, Cannabis. Absolutely. Like, shout out to you, Cannabis.
Shout out. Yes.
That's why we work for Cannabis. That's why we're trying to get these laws changed and do so much for people who've been most impacted because, man, cannabis can really make a way for us if everything falls into place and,
which it does.
Everything.
I want to hear about all of the different ways that you serve the plant because that's like your life. I feel like you're doing the most in the plant. We have like 3 avenues to hit. First, I want to hear about Minorities for Medical Marijuana. How did you meet the crew? How'd you get into it? And then, of course, become director.
Yeah. So, wow, it was really interesting. Minorities for Medical Marijuana was actually founded by Roz McCarthy and Eric Range, who I have to give a huge shout out to. They are both Floridians, like native. They both live in Orlando and are in the Orlando area. And so I had like a huge close proximity to them. Never actually met them in person. Obviously, once the pandemic hit, there wasn't a lot of meeting in person happening anyway. But even that, and I'm not trying to say that the pandemic was a good thing, but the virtual aspect the door that it opened up from that lens allowed me to do a lot more networking. I got connected with Roz simply because I was on I was an attendee in the audience of a conference, a virtual conference where she was like the host speaker or one of the panelists. That's what she was. And it was a discussion that was moderated by another another Black woman who works in cannabis named Mary Pryor, who works with Team Can. She's the co-founder of Inclusive, which is an inclusive and diverse organization and that promotes those things in the cannabis space. And just networking with them and hearing their stories, and me just wanting to connect with them even after the conference, I started following them on social media, and I put out a lot of cannabis content. At the time, I was doing a podcast. I was starting to push more content out on my page, and they were starting to see these things. At the time, I had just got involved with Suncoast Normal as the communications director, where Suncoast Normal more focuses on like the law aspect and trying to get those changed, which again, to that point about me catching that charge, that was super important to me. Minorities for Medical Marijuana, they cover a lot of different things, like, and law included, but a lot of different things for minorities specifically. And they were actually looking at me to potentially come on because they wanted somebody to take over Florida, because Roz and Eric were becoming, M for MM was getting more national attention and things happening on a national level. Other states were doing more than Florida. So they were going up to Jersey, New York, California, Colorado, just a whole lot more. So they really couldn't be like boots on the ground here in Florida. So they were, at the same time I was reaching out, just wondering how I could get involved and help out. They were looking for somebody to take over in Florida. And that's how the connection really happened. It was really me just reaching out and saying, hey, I want to help. And they were like, oh my gosh, perfect. We wanted you to help. And it was just a great, perfect synergy. Roz and Eric have been great, and kind of making sure that my onboarding and transition in the space has been very smooth as far as with InfraMM. And things are starting to open up more. So we're planning more in-person events, still safe events. We don't want to have any super spreader events or anything like that, but just trying to do more in Florida. I recently just did an event with Inclusive, actually. Inclusive, who I work with as well, that I mentioned with Mary Pryor, where she came down and we had a panel discussion at the Soho House in Miami, a women in weed discussion. And it was really just focused on kind of educating people on the importance and what women have done in the space, and then why it's super important to include them and have a diverse organization that you're running. So it's been really kind of quick how it all has happened. Because truly, when I think about it, as far as me wanting to decide to work in cannabis, that really just like happened in like 2020, like the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And with me just like posting so much content and doing all these things, which if you go to my page now, I haven't posted in a while, but it's just because I've been so busy now doing other stuff. But that's really how it started out. So that's one way that I serve cannabis. Obviously, Suncoast Normal. We're trying to do more here in the area, as far as specifically in Tampa. That's more of like a local chapter sort of thing. But Tampa, I went to college here, so it's, it holds a special place to me, trying to make sure that this area, while I'm still living here, is, on the up and up as far as cannabis and doing more in the space. And then, with Inclusive, I'm also able to help out with just making sure companies and our companies, organizations, those large, huge dispensaries, MMTCs, are being inclusive and diverse and holding them accountable for, those things, and being very transparent about those things, and then also educating people and giving people who are the minority, who have been most impacted by the war on drugs, the opportunity to get into the space. So I serve cannabis in those ways. And then my own community, just anybody who's within what we call the fam, the tribe, we make sure that we try to get them all the education that they're looking for. There's so many people out there who are kind of curious, is what I like to deem it as. And I think it's kind of been sort of the industry new term, but it's a real thing. Like, there's people who are intrigued and might have questions, but how are they going to get those answers? I want to make sure that there's a space for them to do that. So I serve cannabis in that way too, because I want to break those stigmas. I don't want people to run around thinking that cannabis is going to screw up your life, or that you're going to, be dumb all of a sudden because you use cannabis. Like, I went back a bit last week and looked at some of those like those DARE program commercials from like the 80s and the early 90s. And it it was wicked. Like, there's a reason people believe what they believe about cannabis in a negative sense today, because we've been trained to do so for a long time. Like, there's been all sorts of propaganda put out there. So now is the perfect time to just relearn some things and continue relearning things, because obviously the movement has been happening. But I think even in my own, just like with my community, my family, when I told them I was working in cannabis and I wasn't going back to my, comfy 9-to-5 job in corporate America, I was not the most popular person in the family. Let me just be honest. It was like, what the heck is this kid doing? He's throwing his life away. And now they see it in a different light. And I'm very proud of that. It makes me feel like I'm doing cannabis justice.
It's hard to be on the cusp of something, you're like, you'll see, like, give it a few years. Like, everyone's going to be helped by cannabis in some way.
No, take my word for it. Take my word for it. And they're like, no, like, why?
I've definitely been there.
It's a real thing. It's something we're working on. We're getting better at every day. The work does not stop. You know what I'm saying? We're constantly trying to work towards, breaking that stigma and getting people more educated and being able to use the plant more. We're doing this big push for Saved by the Treats right now, and so we've been recording these reels for Instagram, and we're recording some today with Amber's grandma in the reels, because community is so important to us. Making sure that they understand that cannabis is not this terrible thing and that it can help them in some ways. Like, she loves using our water soluble products, or we've given her topicals. She loves that stuff.
I want to hear about Saved by the Treats. So tell me more about it.
Oh, Saved by the Treats. Saved by the Treats is a baby born out of the pandemic. And me and Amber, so she works in like brand strategy, and obviously with my marketing background, there's like synergy there. We consult people. It's been a thing. We've been working in the entrepreneur space before we decided we wanted to have a business and a CBD lifestyle brand, essentially. But one day we were sitting, it was actually Juneteenth. I can't even say it was one day. It was Juneteenth, 2020. And we just kind of looked at each other. We were at her mom's house and we just looked at each other like, man, let's do this. Like, everybody is asking us for these edibles and you love to bake, and let's just do it. Let's see what happens. Like, what's the worst that can happen? So we did all the things. We did all the research necessary, because I was moving more into the space. I started, asking more questions with some of my connections to make sure that we were doing things how we were supposed to do legally, not, cutting corners to, get ourselves in trouble or anything. And so we just started, and it became incredibly popular really quick. Like, we were very, very proud of it. It was another reason we were able to, because she quit her job as well in the pandemic. She just was like, I don't want to, she was working insurance and car insurance. And she was just like, I don't want to go back to this. I want to go into entrepreneurship full time. Cannabis served us in a way that it allowed us to be able to do that while still, paying our bills and things like that. It became a huge community, which is what we wanted. But we wanted to make sure we served the community in the ways that they wanted to be served. So aside from, getting treats to people, we really listened to what people had questions about, what people had needs for, what were they struggling with that cannabis CBD could, help with. And so that kind of led us to, over the last 6 months, putting together, partnering through actually a connection with M4MM, another M4MM organization, a partner here in Florida, a Black-owned business that's a hemp manufacturer, to formulate our own custom water solubles, which are similar. Some people always look at me crazy when I say water solubles. They're similar to oils, as in it's a liquid that you can ingest like an edible, but it's better, in my opinion, than an oil, because you can actually put it in any beverage that you're drinking. It's water soluble. It can mix with any liquid, whereas oil and water don't really mix. That's like one of my first lessons in the kitchen that I learned. Oil and water do not mix. So with oils and tinctures, you kind of have to put them under your tongue and let them sit there. And with the water solubles, you could just mix it. I've been mixing it, and it's in my water that I'm drinking right now, actually.
Of course.
And we have flavors that mimic our menu. Our menu, we try not to just do like, your normal treats. Like we have the classic treats, but we also had like wild, crazy treats like strawberry shortcake cookie, lemon pound
Okay,
cake.
no, let's
Like,
talk about that, because
wait,
it's one
what?
thing to like make an edibles company and like that's cool, or make edibles, but like these treats are incredible. So Amber like must be an amazing baker.
She's a baking like wizard. Okay, like some of the stuff she comes up with, and off the top of the head, like I watch it live. And this sometimes this has nothing to do with treats. This is just like feeding us, and she'll just like come up with something, and it's truly incredible to like watch her work. But yeah, like the flavor she comes up with, we're getting ready for back to school now, and switching up our menu. So we typically keep like brownies, chocolate chip cookies, and Fruity Pebble Rice Krispie treats on the menu just because people are always asking about those. Those are like the three classes that never go anywhere. But then on top of that, like this lemon pound cake has been popping this summer. She loves doing stuffed cookies. Like that's like one of her little quirks with her cookies that she likes to do. So she had a carrot cake stuffed with cream cheese cookie, which has been popping. For the holidays, we had red velvet cookies stuffed with cream cheese. That went crazy. People was losing it for those. And then we had like a red velvet cheesecake brownie for Valentine's Day in the shape of a heart. So she gets like really with the theme. Like again, back to school, we're about to be in August. So she's thinking more like peanut butter and jelly throwback treats. And the brand is really kind of focused on like, or at least themed around our youth, that was like a time in our life that's very nostalgic. So we think about nostalgic treats during that time. And strawberry shortcake came from the idea of we love going to the ice cream truck and getting those strawberry shortcakes. Or now we're old enough, we can go to the gas station and grab them. But like them things fire, okay?
Yeah.
So to make a cookie out of it, it was like that's personal, and I keep mentioning it because that's my personal favorite cookie. But but yeah, they're all so good. And so with the water solubles, we wanted to do flavors that mimic the treats that the people love. So that's kind of how that happened, and how we're going to keep moving with it. We've learned a lot along the way. We're saved by the treats, and that's why, like when people come ask me about starting a business in CBD or in the hemp space, and they ask me about starting an edibles business, I tell them, look, you can do it. It's very possible to do, but there's some things to consider. One, you got to differentiate yourself some type of way. Like you can't just be another edible company, to your earlier point. But then also, like, we've had to learn, like, we don't have the capacity to just ship treats out every week. As much as people might want us to ship treats out every week, like she has another brand Girl Magic, where she helps women own businesses. And I have everything we've been talking about today in this short time, aside from Saved by the Treats. So realistically, us doing it every single week is just not feasible. So it's definitely been a learning process, and something that I think we're continuing to evolve, but it's something that feeds us. And I don't mean that in a sense of just literally feeding us because it's treats, or feeding us because it's, something that we can feed ourselves and pay our bills, but it feeds us as in feeding our souls, feeding our spirit. Like it does something for us to be able to see people, hit us up on Instagram or email us and tell us some testimony about how the treats help them. And we've gotten that so much, again, to the point of listening though, we listened to people who said, hey, I want to eat these more, but I'm also watching my sugar intake. Very understandable, which is why we, developed the water soluble product. So you can have something that's even more accessible to you. But at the end of the day, it really feeds us as in feeding our spirit to be able to provide a way for our community to have an introduction into cannabis products that can really benefit them, and it not necessarily be smoking or what you would normally consider. Like it's eating. We love to eat or drink or, drink water or whatever. Like we love those things. We love to treat ourselves every once in a while. I just had some froyo last night because I had a bomb week this week. I hit a bunch of goals. I knew I was hopping on this call this morning. I was like, I'm going to treat myself to some froyo. Like, you got to do that. You deserve to treat yourself every once in a while. So yeah, that's really why that's the Saved by the Treats thing, and it's been great for us. It's definitely helped me in the space, but also helped me understand the struggles businesses go through in the space. So from an advocacy standpoint, I'm able to feel that pain as well and speak for them, because we want more small businesses and minority owned businesses and women led businesses to be in the space, right? Like that should be goals for us. And it's really hard for me to be able to speak to those things when I'm in certain rooms with people, if I haven't necessarily been through them or I haven't talked to the people that have gone through them. So it helps and feeds us in a lot of different ways. It's really been kind of like what has like spiraled us even more so into the cannabis space, truly.
So amazing. And I like what you said about just like knowing your limits, because the industry where it's at is, booming. And so it's really easy to get caught up in like more and more and more. But that's like the whole thing about cannabis. It's not it's traditional. It's like the OG traditional. It's not like, we're not following the same capitalism model that we always are. It's here to shake things up and do something different. Right. So it's not like more, harder, faster. It's like intentional.
Right. And I love that you use that word. Intentional. Has to be more intentional. And I think that is where we can really, truly like shake it up, to your point, and be able to look at it differently. I think, to be honest, even outside of cannabis with the pandemic, I think there's a true shift happening in the way people look at capitalism and corporate America and, harder, faster, go, 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 do more work. Like, people are leaving their jobs in droves. Like, it's crazy. And I think that cannabis can really even more so help us redefine what certain things looks like. Like, and that's going to be the OG space where we're not going to let that happen. Like, we're not going to be in the kitchen every week. We just don't have the capacity for it. Even when you think about just how much I like people work in the space, how much you work in the space, even if it's just being a mom, being a family person, family man, family woman, daughters, like I'm at the point now where your parents, that kind of flip and start being like your children a little bit. So I got to check up on my parents just as much as, they would be checking up on me, like doing all those things. You got to learn and find that balance of being super intentional with everything you do, so that you don't overwork yourself, so that you can take moments and really enjoy and experience things in life. Because, if you don't do that, what was it all for anyway?
Exactly. You nailed it. Okay, DJ, let me know what the most frequently asked question you get is in relation to the cannabis space, maybe even within Midas and Co. And what's your answer?
Do I smoke all day? That people, me and Amber actually spoke to some high school students about entrepreneurship, and they were super curious about what there was like entrepreneurship week. So we were one of the businesses throughout the week that spoke to the class, and
oh, cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. One of our classmates from me and Amber went to college together. One of our classmates from college hooked it up. She was the teacher, and or she is the teacher, and she wanted us. She made the class very aware that we had a CBD business, and they really wanted to know, we said, you can ask us questions. It's fine. We're not like the police. We're not going to come like banging down your door or anything. And they really wanted to know, like, if we smoked all day, like, do you just smoke? And that's how you like, I'm like, no. People, even like some friends, family members, my mom came and stayed with me for a week, and she like kind of saw me on calls throughout the day on my computer working, doing different things. And she was like, oh, so like you working in cannabis, you really working. You're not just like smoking all day. And I know that sounds like a crazy, like I'm sure that was not the answer you expected when you said what's the one question you get asked all day, but people ask me that all the time. And I have to break it down and be like, cannabis is just like any other business. Like there's operations, there's marketing, there's accounting, there's finance, there's HR, there's all these different elements that go into it. It's not just smoking. Like there's the agriculture side. Like
of course,
that's the biggest question. Aside from making sure people know I don't just sit around and smoke all day. Like I'm actually doing stuff with myself. People love to ask, does CBD actually get you high? Like what is it for? That's a very popular question because, I'm in the cannabis space, but Saved by the Treats is a lifestyle brand. It's kind of centered around CBD, to be honest. Like we only have CBD products. So people really want to know. And what I always tell people is, everything has its place. CBD definitely has its place. And there's a lot of there's CBG, there's CBN, there's all types of stuff. But when you just look at like non-THC elements of the plant, they still have a space. When I am, getting ready to focus and like bang out some work for a couple of hours or a few hours, I'm probably not just going to smoke a total THC joint. Like I'm probably going to have either some CBD water soluble or a treat, or usually I save my sweet treats until after I do the work.
Reward.
Yeah, it's like a reward. So I typically won't have a sweet treat before the work, but I won't even it'll be a ratio where when I do use whether it's a bong or a pipe or a joint, it's a ratio. It's usually a 1-to-1 ratio of CBD versus THC. And that shocks people because they're like, well, it doesn't get you high. And it's like, well, the point isn't necessarily to get high. The point is to be able to focus and get my work done. And CBD helps me with that more so than THC, so to speak, because I'm not like high. Like I'm not like, I can't like function. You know what I'm saying? And also you got to understand dosing. Like if you want to just get smacked every day, that's a thing. You can do that. But there's also like, you can be very conscious as far as consuming and using the plant. And you don't necessarily have to be stuck to a couch. You can be super functional and do things and be, elevated is what I like to call it. It's totally fine, whether that's with CBD or whether that's with THC or whether it's a combination of both. And people are using Delta 8, and there's a lot of questions about that now. I get asked that pretty frequently. That's like a new thing. But yeah, it's definitely CBD is a thing. It's a real thing. It's very helpful. It does not necessarily get you high in the same way that THC does, but the value of it is still high. And that's kind of the point. It helps. Cannabis is so versatile. And it helps you in so many different ways. And to be able to do that, it has to have multiple components. CBD is one of those components where it does do something for you. It just depends on what your goal is. That's my soapbox on conscious cannabis consumption. Say that 3 times fast. Conscious cannabis consumption.
I love that. Totally. I know that was one of the questions I got asked most frequently working at Moon Mother Hemp. Does it get you high? And it's like, how quickly do you want to answer the question?
How deep do you want to go with this? Like,
exactly.
Because I can keep this at one sentence, or this can be somebody's dissertation. What you want to do?
Yes. All right. So what are your favorite resources to recommend? You mentioned Inclusive already, obviously. I want to say M for MM because that's how I always see it written out, but Minority for Medical Marijuana. What are your go-tos?
So those are 2 of my huge go-tos. I always, when I'm looking at different like news articles, I check out NACB News. I put Google Alerts on my phone to get updates on what's happening in the space. Those are 2 huge ones. I also follow, so from like a medical standpoint, I'm very tapped in with like the Knox docs. They've been very, very helpful. They have an organization called ACAM, which has been super, super, helpful as far as from a medical standpoint, because I am not a doctor. I took I was a pre-med major for all of 2 semesters, and I switched my major expeditiously. So no, I do not have that background. I can't be, I can't be giving medical advice out here. That's who I look to from that standpoint on as far as the medical front goes. But yeah, that's what I would say. My 3 biggest ones are, I guess I listed 4. Suncoast is also very helpful, especially when it comes to laws and understanding, like getting some of those breakdowns. They all, as far as like one-stop shops and everybody has their specific thing, whether it's law or medicine. That's why I follow like, Can Inclusive, M for MM, who they share on all of those different things. I also follow Stay Connected with Last Prisoner Project.
Yes.
Just because I'm very much so, I need a record expunged. So
yeah,
I stay tapped into that. But yeah, those are some of my main resources that I like to use and go to.
Have you been successful in that yet? Does Florida have any program?
Man, Florida's, Tori, how fast you want me to answer this question? Because Florida's situation in expungement is horrible because one, Florida only allows you to expunge 1 cannabis record. So if you have multiple, you're then stuck with trying to figure out which one do I do? Which one do I try to get expunged? And then on top of that, with only being able to get 1 expunged, sometimes people have other things on their record that they're more focused on getting expunged. Like if you have something more severe on your record and, like a gun charge or, anything like that, you might want to be working towards getting that expunged rather than a marijuana expungement. So sometimes we do have a challenge of what people like prioritize or value one over the other, but also just the laws in general. There have been a couple of proposals on the table as far as bills for expungement, but nothing has been passed. We have a tough time here in Florida getting certain stuff passed and getting some progress. It's very conservative here, but we have been working. Senator Bracey, he's put forth a couple of bills. I'll actually be doing next month what are we in, July? Yeah, next month, August. I'll be doing a virtual Facebook Live on expungement in Florida. I do know that I'll be having an expungement clinic though on Labor Day weekend. So we'll be in Miami September 4th and 5th doing expungement at the football game. There's a FAMU versus Jackson State football game. So we'll be at the parade the day before in Miami. We'll be at the concert that night, and then we'll be at the tailgate on Sunday as well. It'll be a busy, busy holiday weekend, but we'll be down in Miami trying to get as many records as we can expunged. So if you're in South Florida or know anybody in South Florida, or you want to spend Labor Day in South Florida and look at getting your record expunged, let me know, holla at me. We'll definitely be doing some work down there.
And so where can the people find you if they want to learn more and get into what you're doing?
Yes. You can find me on Instagram. I am most often posting in my stories because I have so much going on. But my Instagram handle is at DJ The King, TheeKing. You can also follow me on Facebook, DJ Howard, or LinkedIn is the same, DJ Howard. And follow the Saved by the Treats page. Over the next couple of, me and Amber just batch recorded like 14 reels in the last couple of days, and we got a couple more to do. So we are going to be pushing out a lot of reels for like new content as far as Saved by the Treats. And so you'll definitely want to tap into that and see us there. That's probably where you can actually find me most for like the next month, between that and Minorities for Medical Marijuana, if I'm being honest.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your wisdom, DJ. We could have talked for hours. I guess that's probably why you have a podcast. You're like very natural at all of this.
I just looked up and I was like, oh my gosh, I have been running my mouth for an hour.
No. Well, okay. So what's up with the podcast?
I'm so sorry.
I don't even know if we touched on that really.
Oh my goodness. I have not. So I did season 1, right? And it was something that I started in 2020 in April when I was getting started in cannabis. And that's how I started to get more connected in the space because I was doing exactly what you're doing. I was bringing on people who are in the space and meeting them and then like actually developing relationships with them that was like outside of the podcast. But I did 10 episodes and we kind of hit on, my goal is usually to hit on every part of the industry. So whether it's agriculture, whether it's ancillary businesses, law, medicine, voting. So like we touched on all of those different things in season 1. I am looking at starting season 2 up after September. So like before the holidays, but after September, simply because, you know, I have a lot going on with minorities for medical marijuana over the next couple of months. And I don't want to,
intentional with your time.
I want to be intentional. I'm gonna have another 10 episodes. I don't know why. I just like the number 10. And sometimes I need a creative break. So I'll just be like, you know, I'll record a whole bunch of episodes and might just hold them.
I mean, you're saying creative break, and then in the meantime, you're like recording 20 reels. So I don't know where you're getting that. You're just like floating from thing to thing.
Wow, Tori, wow. Yeah. You know what? No, you just actually helped me realize something. Wow, Tori, thank you. I did not know I was coming on your podcast today for a therapy session, because wait a minute. I did say I was taking a break from the podcast for creativity and I'm out here recording. But, you know, I also heard something else about creativity. They say it's not something that gets used up. It doesn't run out. It's something of more so the more you use it, the more of it you get. So maybe I just need to start looking at it in a different light. But you know, gave me a whole therapy session this morning.
Yes.
I didn't know I was coming here to get my therapy session for the week. I appreciate it. This call has been, we killed 2 birds with 1 stone. It's been multifaceted and beneficial in multiple ways.
I love it. Thank you so much. I should have had Amber on too, but maybe I can just do a second episode with her.
Listen, I'm not just saying this because she bae, but she deserves her own episode, and the people will love her because she got so much going on outside of what we got going on with Saved by the Trees. I'm sure she could talk to you and y'all could have a whole nother hour conversation and I'll just not be involved. I'm just being honest. I'll let her know.
Yes. Please. Okay, let's hook it up. Done deal.
All right, for sure. Thank you so much, Tori. I appreciate you giving me some space to come on your show and talk.
Likewise.
This will not be the last time. When season 2 of the Midas Touch pod comes back, you know I got to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. I hope that you have a beautiful day.
You do the same. Have a good one.
Okay. Goodbye. Thank you so much for tuning in to 6 Degrees from Cannabis. If you connected with this episode, please share it with a friend who would benefit from hearing it too. Tap the subscribe button to be notified when the next 6 Degrees episode is released. You can find more information about holistic healing, the Follow Your Heart Oracle deck, and what I do by visiting ToriRerick.com. If you message us on Instagram at the 6 Degrees from Cannabis, we'll be sure to message you back. Bliss be with you.